We finally made it to the biggest event of 2024 so far. Two superstars in the sport of boxing are going up against one another come April 20th. Both fighters have history against one another, splitting their 6 matches in the amateurs, going 3-3. This is Game 7 here in the professional ranks, a stage at both of their careers where a win is needed. On one side, you got Devin Haney. At 25 years old, he's done almost everything. Undisputed at 135. Goes up to 140, gets the WBC belt. Legacy-wise, Devin is on a trajectory that most fighters never even think about in their career. But while he's done everything when it comes to legacy, he's looking for money now. He's looking for money fights now. What better fight than Ryan Garcia if you want to bring in money? Ryan Garcia coming in with tens of millions of social media followers. Participated in the biggest fight in boxing last year against Gervonta Davis, which drew 1.2 million pay-per-view buys. One might say he's the cash cow at 140. But Ryan's coming in needing a win. In his biggest fight against Gervonta Davis, walked away with a loss after tanking a knee in the 7th round. Came back with a solid performance against Oscar Duarte, which we'll get into. This is another fight that'll put him back in the conversation for one of the best boxers in the sport. This is a fight that can skyrocket both of these fighters' careers. And come April 20th, we're going to be in for a slugfest. Quickly, welcome to the Never Drop Podcast. If you're listening on YouTube, make sure you like the video, subscribe, comment below who do you think is going to win. If you're listening on streaming platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, hit that follow button. But back to the fight. Let's start off with Devin Haney. Devin, I've talked about him before. He's done about everything you can at only age 25. Undisputed at 135. He came up. He said, I'll take the challenge. He went over to Australia, fought George Kambosos twice, took his belts, and then fought him again to gain that undisputed title. Then he said, you know what? In my defense of undisputed at 135, I'll fight Vasily Lomachenko. A fight that, if you ask many today, they might say Loma won. But at the end of the day, Devin Haney still has 0 in his loss margin. Defended his title against Lomachenko, said, I've outgrown this weight. Moved up to 140. People wondered, what would he do? He didn't take a tune-up at 140. He said, let me go get a belt. Fought Regis Prograis in his last fight, which we'll dive deeper into. Won that belt, and now presents himself in a situation where he can call shots, and his career is only getting bigger. Let's look at the numbers real quick. Devin Haney coming into this fight, 31-0. 15 knockouts. That's the one thing about Devin Haney that many say. He doesn't have that knockout one-punch power that his counterparts have, aka Gervonta Davis, or in this fight, potentially a Ryan Garcia. What he does have is one of the best jabs in boxing and elite defense. He fights out of an orthodox position, height 5'8", with a reach of 71. That's where the jab comes into play. Of course, I mentioned his age. He's 25 years old. Right now, he's entering the prime of his career, which is insane to think about as he's already accomplished so much. He is just now entering the prime of his career and looks to become one of the best fighters in boxing. And pound for pound, he's top 10. As some might argue, he might be sniffing that top 5 list. In his last fight, I just mentioned it, a unanimous decision against Regis Prograis. But it wasn't just your typical unanimous decision. It was a complete domination of Regis Prograis, who's a really good fighter. People came into this fight thinking it was a 50-50 fight. If you watched it, it was the total opposite. Devin Haney won every single round on every judge's scorecard. 12-0, complete shutout, and he knocked down Regis Prograis in the 3rd round with a nice right hand. So now the question is, does Devin Haney have some power, some pop at 140 that we didn't necessarily see in his later fights at 135? We're going to see, especially against a Ryan Garcia that's proven to be a little chinny. Knocked down by Luke Campbell a few years ago, and obviously Gervonta Davis was able to capitalize on his mistakes. For Devin Haney, this weight has become a big thing for him. 135, it was clear if you saw the weigh-ins he was participating in, he couldn't make the weight. He was draining his body. He had to go up to 140. The Prograis fight was his first fight at 140. Still, it wasn't easy to make the weight. Him and his father, Bill, his trainer, promoter, talked about, hey, 147 can come sooner than later. But right now they're at 140. This Regis Prograis fight was on December 9th of last year, so not too much time in between. About 5 months between fights. He's staying in camp, staying in shape. Immediately, he was calling for this Ryan Garcia fight. And of course, he won the WBC belt. People were wondering, what's Devin going to do at 140? Because 140 is a great division. Right now, probably one of, if not the top divisions in boxing. You got to remember, we were saying 135 is the division. All these guys are moving up to 140. And a lot of these guys have belts at 140. You look at the belt holders at this current moment. You got Devin Haney, Subriel Matiz, Isaac Cruz just took the belt off Rolly Romero, and you got Teofimo Lopez. Great fights for whoever wins. Devin Haney, I believe, put out a tweet saying, at first I wasn't wanting to go for one undisputed at 140. Now I think I might, which would be incredible, as there are fights to make at this division, but first he's got to get through Ryan Garcia. The numbers on Ryan Garcia, 24-1, that sole loss coming to Gervonta Davis back in April of last year, 20 knockouts, electrifying speed and power, especially in that left hook. If you've seen Ryan Garcia, if you've heard about Ryan Garcia, you know that left hook is dangerous. Fights out an orthodox stance, height of 5'8.5", has a reach of 70 inches, so about the same as Devin Haney, and he's the same age as 25. Ryan Garcia, quickly, his last fight was against Oscar Duarte, which I mentioned. We didn't learn too much, at least from my perspective, about Ryan in that fight. We were wondering how he was going to react from the Tank Davis fight. For a lot of rounds, he looked good. And then he went into a weird shoulder roll, which his trainer, Derek James, said, I never taught him that. Ryan said, Derek James never taught me that. I was just trying it out. He's lucky he was going against Oscar Duarte, who has some power to his punches and was clipping Ryan a good amount of times. He's lucky he wasn't fighting a better fighter, as he might not have been able to find himself to victory that night. Ryan ended up knocking Duarte out in the 8th round, as it was another hook that sent Duarte down, and he couldn't beat the count, and Ryan was able to get that victory. With Ryan, it's a question of how disciplined is he. And we'll talk about some of his Twitter antics, but you think about his last 2 fights. I just mentioned the shoulder roll, which he was never taught. He obviously, and if you look at it, it wasn't a shoulder roll. He turned his back to Duarte multiple times thinking that was the defense. It made no sense at all. And then in the Tank Davis fight, the lack of discipline, he said what led to him getting knocked down and eventually knocked out was, hey, he got bored in there. He wanted to get excited. He was bored of the boxing. So he went out and took some risk. And Tank Davis obviously capitalized on him. Tank threw in the 2nd round knockdown. He had thrown 1 power punch, and that was the punch that knocked Ryan Garcia down. Ryan, at some points, is just not disciplined in the ring. And if that's the case against Devin Haney is going to have a nice, easy night. But while I'm going on about this Ryan Garcia defense, I mean, if you look at the fight strategies for both Devin and Ryan, it seems like this is really in favor of Devin. We talked about it. Devin likes to stay on the outside and box. He has one of, if not the best jabs in the sport of boxing. So for him, being able to stay on the outside, land a couple jabs, then land a nice right hand, the right hand that knocked Regis Prograis down, that can be his bread and butter all night. He doesn't have to fight on the inside that some fighters like. Ryan Garcia, he does have the speed to potentially catch Devin Haney, but then again, we know how good Devin Haney's defense is. Will Devin allow himself to slip up for a second, and can Ryan take advantage of connecting with a nice left hook? We don't know. Ryan, the speed and power is there. It's no joke. But when it comes to boxing, does he have it? We haven't really seen his boxing abilities these last few fights and how they can match up to someone like Devin Haney, who's in those top tiers of all fighters, no matter what weight class, and being able to box his opponent. Devin, he's calculated. He doesn't make unnecessary risks that Ryan has made in the past. So for me, I think this is really huge and tilting in Devin Haney's favor, because the way he boxes so precisely, I think really combats anything that Ryan Garcia can bring to the table. I think Devin's just that much smarter and able to outbox Ryan that well. This fight, though, we've seen fireworks outside of the ring the entire time. We don't know what to expect, right? First, Ryan and Devin were calling each other out. Then Ryan said, hey, I'm going to go fight Rolly Romero. Then he didn't. And then he came back to Devin Haney, and they got it done really quickly, honestly, to make this fight. Obviously, I talked about they fought 6 times in the amateurs, going 3-3, so this was the perfect setup. The infamous when Devin Haney came into the ring and Ryan Garcia's like, as long as he's champion, I'm champion. Devin's like, I don't know about that. Like, these guys were friends. These guys have been friends in the past. Now they've turned on each other. We saw for Super Bowl, right after the fight was made, they saw each other. They got into a little bit of a shoving match. That was all recorded. I don't know if it was staged. To a degree, it looked a little staged, but then again, it was there for everyone to see. We saw at the press conferences. I was at the LA press conference. Ryan Garcia did not seem like he was in the greatest mental state. Heck, I thought if he makes it to fight night after the LA press conference, I'll be really surprised. The way he was reacting to stuff, the way he was acting, I don't know, it just didn't seem to be the Ryan Garcia we've seen in the past. And yeah, he's done things for social media and antics, but this seemed to be a little more. And then Ryan's been on Twitter, Instagram, all social medias, doing all sorts of things, ranting on Twitter, talked about things that it just seems like his head is not in a correct place to fight. But this fight hasn't been called off. This fight is still scheduled for April 20th. Of course, I respect the commissions, the New York commission. If they say Ryan's good to go, Ryan's good to go. Heck, I've heard people say Ryan's doing this all kind of as a troll, and he's actually working. Him and Derek James are in the gym working. So maybe Ryan's throwing everyone off. But this promotion, this has been an interesting one. As I thought coming in that this would do really good numbers. I thought the idea that these two, the rivalry, the star power of Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney's rise, I thought this was going to do really good. But Ryan Garcia, the way his Twitter antics and social media, I think have turned some people off of this fight. And they haven't been able to reach the level of promotion for this fight as I believe they originally thought they would be. Along with, I totally forgot about this, but the debate over whether the fight was going to be in Vegas or it was going to be in New York. Originally it was in Vegas, then it was in Brooklyn. Ryan Garcia said he's not fighting in Brooklyn. All this different things. It's just been a lot of petty things, this build up, and it's going to be interesting come fight night just to see how the turnout is and what the reaction is around the sports world for this fight, because I thought this would be a crossover fight where you're going to get the casuals tuning in with the antics. People might not tune in because they think Ryan's going to lose. There's no reason for me to spend my money when I've been seeing Ryan talking crazy on Twitter. He's not ready to fight. So we're going to see fight night. But how the fight itself will play out, I think this is tailor-made for a complete domination by Devin Haney. I struggle to even think about a moment whether or not Ryan will be able to land something. You look at the Tank fight. Ryan landed maybe 2 solid shots, I think one in the 5th, one in the 6th. Tank kind of smiled at him. Obviously, we know Ryan has the power. He has the ability to land something and, heck, maybe do some damage. We haven't seen anybody be able to do that to Devin in a while. The video of Devin stumbling when he got hit by Linares, that's years ago now. No one's really done it. While people have laid hands on him, Lomachenko, Ryan's not nearly what Lomachenko is. So I think Ryan might be trying to look for that one shot. And if he does, this will be a boxing masterclass by Devin Haney. He'll just fight on the outside, he'll jab, pick him apart, go to the body, maybe a right hand to the head. I think this is tailor-made for Devin Haney to just have a very easy night in the ring. My question is not who's going to win this fight. My question is whether Devin Haney is going to knock him out or not. Because I do believe he's gained a little power going up to 140. I don't think it's crazy power, and he doesn't have to have crazy power because he can outbox everybody. But Ryan Garcia, he will leave himself open for shots. Will Devin Haney throw enough where maybe Ryan has to quit on his stool, or a TKO ensues as Ryan just can't take anymore? I think that's more likely than, say, a one-punch knockout for Devin. But I think Devin has a chance for a stoppage. I say all this to say I'm going to go Devin Haney unanimous decision in this fight. I know he did show that power at 140, and I'm kind of hyping it up. You look at the knockdown against Regis Prograis, that was kind of a flash knockdown. Regis was a little off balance. Granted, his power is there. His power is definitely better, I'd say, at 140 than 135. But I think he's going to respect Ryan to a degree, and he's not going to try and get into a fight at all. He's going to box, and he's going to land punches that you say, hey, if he presses on the gas pedal, he might be able to get Ryan out of here, but I think he'll be calm, cool, collected in the ring, kind of back off, box, and take the unanimous decision. And then for Devin, I don't know what's going to be after this. Obviously, I'm assuming he wins this fight. We talked about 140. Does he want to stay at 140? There's some great fights to make there. For Ryan, if he does lose this fight, after this weird promotion, people are going to definitely be, does he have it mentally? 2 losses in a year span on the biggest of stages. How mentally fit is he for this? If it flips, if Ryan wins, he might be one of the biggest stars in boxing again. And if Devin loses, what would be next for him? As it wouldn't be the loss that necessarily would do him in this fight. It's the shock, the fact he's so highly favored. If there's an upset, this would be a huge upset. What would that do to Devin Haney? We're all going to see April 20th, see how this fight plays out. I have Devin Haney getting the unanimous decision. I think he just cleanly outboxes Ryan in this fight. And I'm struggling to even find a moment in my head where I think Ryan can get in and potentially make his presence known in that ring. But let me know in the comments below if you're watching on YouTube. Let me know, who do you think is going to win this fight? Comment below, like this video, subscribe. Follow me on wherever you get your podcasts. Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Make sure you follow the Never Drop Podcast. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Check out all my videos. I have videos of the LA press conference. I have videos from Devin Haney's media workout. Make sure you press and follow those on YouTube. Again, appreciate you if you've listened this far. That's all I got for you today. April 20th. Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney. Game 7. Who wins the grudge match? That's all I got for you. Peace. I'm out.